Assalamu alaikum. I'm Saadat Nisar with the course Electronic Commerce. We have discussed the client-side processing in our previous lecture. So we saw that what type of data is processed on the client machine. In our today's lecture, we shall see as to what type of data is processed on the server side. Mainly the data, the information that is processed on the server side includes CGI scripts, then servlets, server-side scripts, and then ODBC, JDBC. We shall take up these individual topics later. But before we do that, I want to tell you again the definition of the term web server, and then we shall also look as to what is a database. A web server is a machine. If you install a special web server software on a machine and connect it to the internet, then you can say that you have created a web server. And then using that web server, certain requests made by the client machine, they can be satisfied, they can be entertained by that web server. A relational database, or simply a database, can be defined as a collection of information in tables. So there can be one or more than one tables which constitute database. These tables, they have their individual names. These tables, they consist of columns and rows, and each column in the table has a name. Most e-commerce websites, they consist of a front end and a back end. From this I mean that there is certain information which is viewable by the user. The client, he can interact with that information. He has an interface before him. And where that is the situation, I say that this information is the front end. The information, I repeat, which the user can interact with is called the front end. On the other hand, the information which resides on the server side and that is used to generate dynamic web pages, that constitutes the back end. So therefore, if I have created ASP files, I have created CGI scripts, or I have coded a JSP page, all that would be generally called my back end, which consists of all these different programs, these different codes, and using these I can then generate certain dynamic web pages. For a good e-commerce website, there has to be a good level of integration or compatibility between its front end and the back end. The question that may arise is, why do we need to have a back end? The answer to that is that we require a back end mainly because we want to raise certain database queries. We want to interact with the databases. And secondly, we want to maintain state. So mainly for database querying and for the maintenance of state, we need to have our backend. The backend would constitute certain programs, certain codes, certain scripts, and these would run on the server side, and they would then generate dynamic interactive web pages. There is a term CGI that stands for Common Gateway Interface. Common Gateway Interface in fact represents a standard format or a standard method which allows the data on the forms to be utilized by the server side. In fact, it's a protocol using which the server side can talk to the applications residing on the server. Then there is the term script. Script means all those programs which run on the server side and which can generate dynamic pages for us. So there can be C, C++, Perl scripts that may be running on the server side to deliver certain dynamic content. I want to explain this concept CGI setup to you, and for that I need to show you a slide. You can look at the screen. There is the CGI setup. On the left end, there is the client side, the browser. On the right end, in the bigger rectangle, you can see that is the server side. There is the server and then the CGI scripts or programs which are running on the server side, and then there is some database in which some tables would be stored. Now, to understand this concept, let's say the user makes an HTTP request. Say there is a page before the user on which there is some hyperlink. The user clicks on that hyperlink, and because of the href attribute in that anchor tag, the request, the HTTP request, is delivered to a CGI script. In fact, the value of the href attribute is that of a script running on the server side. So accordingly, when the user would click on the hyperlink, his HTTP request would in fact be delivered to the server side, to that CGI script whose URL is shown as a value of href. The server side would communicate, would talk to the CGI script with the help of the CGI protocol. Then this CGI script would be executed, and we shall have coded that CGI script in such a fashion that it would in fact generate an SQL query, a database query for us. That database query may be for retrieving some information from the database. So if that is the case, then the query would be processed and the database would provide that particular information which has been requested, and then through the server, that information retrieved from the database by the CGI script would be passed on to the browser, to the client, as an HTML document. In order to have a better understanding of this concept, let's have a look at another example. You can see in the slide, there is a web page on which I have created two hyperlinks. First hyperlink states, click here to view the record of your previous transactions. And then the next hyperlink states, list of IT books for sale. The code behind this web page would look like this. HTML tag, body tag, and the anchor tag, href equals http www.onlineshop.com/bin-hello1.cgi. In fact, the URL that I have set as value to the attribute href is that of a CGI script, a CGI program which is residing on the server side. The CGI scripts, they are placed in a special directory called CGI bin. So the CGI script, the file hello1.cgi, is kept in this case in the directory CGI bin. You can see that. And then I type the text, click here to view the record of your previous transactions, anchor tag closed. Accordingly, this statement would become clickable. Then the paragraph tag, then the second anchor tag. Now href equal http www.onlineshop.com/cgi bin-hello2.cgi. Now this is the second script in CGI and I name it hello2.cgi. And then I type then the text, list of IT books for sale. Then I close the anchor tag. Consequently, these words, list of IT books for sale, they would become clickable because they are enclosed within the anchor tag. Then I close the body and then I close the HTML tag. Assuming that a user clicks on the second hyperlink, that is list of IT books, what would happen? In fact, then when the user clicks on this hyperlink, an HTTP request then would be made to the server side, and the CGI script, the hello2.cgi, that would accordingly be executed, and depending upon the code we have embedded in this file hello2.cgi, some action would take place, some dynamic result would be created. So in this particular case, I want the IT books which are available on the database. I want these details about the IT books to be shown to me. For that, I can write a simple script. Say I can write a script in Perl. You can see that in the slide. The hello2.cgi coded in Perl. Print head \n, then again the head close, then with the print statement there is a body tag, then within the print I have a heading tag h1 IT books. So that is pure HTML IT books. That heading would be processed on the client side, and the words IT books would appear as a heading. Then within the print, in the bold, I write description of available books. That again, that is HTML, that would be processed on the client side. And then you can see three statements in bold. In fact, they would generate an SQL query to retrieve the details of IT books. If we are using Oracle type of database, then the syntax says that I write ampersand set Oracle. Then in the next line, ampersand run SQL. And within the small brackets and in the double quotation marks, you can see I have typed an SQL query, that is a select query, which runs select star from IT books. That would in fact indicate, that would mean that whatever information is lying in the table called IT books, all that information should be picked up from there and be delivered to the client. And stop Oracle, stop this process, and then again there is a print statement. We use these print statements in order to type some information on the page in Perl. For your examination point of view, I don't want you to go into the details in this example. I just want to give you a broad concept how we can make use of the select query to retrieve the data. So in this fashion, when this file CGI script hello2.cgi would be processed, it would generate a select query which would result into the retrieval of all the details contained in the table, in the database, the table called IT books, and then that information would be supplied to the client side. Remember that in SQL, whenever we want to retrieve some information, we use this keyword select, and that is called the select statement in SQL. Here I would like to discuss the SQL relatively in more detail. SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and we can make use of this SQL Structured Query Language in order to raise queries to the databases. So various tools, they have slight modification in the general syntax of SQL, but basically the syntax as provided by the SQL, that remains as it is. So wherever you want to retrieve data, say you are using a select query, in the ASP you will always type the word select to retrieve the data. And in case you want to insert some data, you will use the keyword insert. So the basic syntax would remain the same. There can be slight modification depending upon the tool in which we are using these SQL statements. Now, Whenever I want all the information of a table, I use the star. As you can see, I typed select star to retrieve all the information from a table. In case I want some specific information to be picked up from the database, from the table, then there is a slight modification, slight change that I can have. For instance, where I want that the names of the authors and publishers of e-commerce books residing in the table IT books, that specific information should be provided to the client side. In that case, I would write my select statement. As you can see in the slide, I write the keyword select, then the word author. This is the field in the table IT books under which the names of the authors are listed. Then in order to retrieve the information about publishers, I also write the word publisher, because under the column publisher there would be names of the publishers listed. Then the word from, and then I write the name of that table. Here I have named that table as IT books, so I type IT books. Then I use the where clause. You can see I write the word where, this keyword where, and then I type course name equal e-commerce. That means that whenever I include this statement in my script, that would generate, that would raise a select query to the database, and the names of the authors and publishers in relation to course e-commerce provided in the table IT books, all that information would be retrieved and then would be supplied to the client side. In other words, a dynamic web page would be created for the client depending upon this query. Now, in case I want to add, record or insert some data in the databases, then what should I do for that? There is the insert statement in SQL which I can make use of to record, to insert the data received in a form from the user, and then the databases can thereby be populated, they can be maintained. I can show you a slide here. You can see that there are 4 different text boxes in a form which is open for the user. There is a heading to register, please enter the following information, and then there are the 4 text boxes: name, address, password, email, and then the 2 buttons, register, which is a submit type button, and then the reset button. The code behind this web page is like this. So I come to the form tag, name, reg form, action equal http www.onlineshop.com/hello.asp method post, and then I create my text boxes using the typical syntax you are familiar with. Here note that I have kept the value of the action attribute as a URL where an ASP file called hello.asp is residing. Therefore, when the user would click on this button register, which is a submit type button, after entering different values in the text boxes appearing before the user in the form, then in that eventuality all the information contained in the form would be supplied to the ASP file residing on the server side called hello.asp. And then we shall have coded this ASP file in such a fashion that we will have used a particular insert SQL statement in that ASP code, which would result into an insert query. When this ASP code would be executed, it would result into an insert query, and accordingly the data received from the user in the form, that data would be inserted in the relevant columns of the database of a table which would have been created for this particular thing. Now, just to have a look how this insert statement is carried out. Let's have a look at the slide. Instead of showing you the full code, I have just written the insert statement. I write the keyword insert, then into, and then I name that particular table. Here I have used the name of that table as register, which means that I want this information received from the user to be entered in the table called register. And then whatever field values that I want to be inserted, I write the names of those fields. So you can see there is the name, then address, then password, then email. These are all the fields, the columns in which I want my values picked up from the form to be inserted. Then I write the keyword values, and in ASPs then I use the request object. We'll talk about it in more detail later. So I use this request dot form, and then I, in double quotation mark, write the word name. So that would in fact mean that whatever value the user has typed in the text box name, that value should be inserted in the relevant column in the table register. Similarly, in the next line you see request dot form address. That would indicate that the address typed by the user in the text box called address, that information should be inserted in the relevant column in the register table. In the same manner, the value typed as password and the value typed in the text box email, all these values, these four values, they would be inserted, they would be recorded in the relevant columns of the table register. Besides these select and insert statements, there are other statements also in SQL, like delete statement that would delete certain data from the tables in the database, and then there would be an update statement which would then update the data residing in the tables. Now, with this background in mind, I want to talk about what are servlets, what are server-side scripts. The term servlets is used to indicate those special Java programs which are very fast, which are always available, and they reside on the server side. And using these special Java programs, this Java code, we can create some dynamic results. Then there are server-side scripts. Server-side scripts refer to all those programs, those codes created in different tools which are resided on the server side to produce dynamic result. And mainly they include ASP, JSP, and PHP. All these different technologies, they can result into dynamic content, and the code in this regard is available on the server. ASP stands for Active Server Pages. It is the product of Microsoft, as you may know, and all those files which are using ASP technology, all those programming files, those programs, they would at their end contain the extension .asp. So as you saw, hello.asp. Then Java Server Pages, JSP, it's a product of Sun Microsystems. It is in fact a competitor of ASP, and that was developed by Sun Labs. It uses purely Java programming for generating different scripts. Then PHP is a new development that is a creation of Apache Software Foundation, and it stands for, PHP stands for Hypertext Preprocessor. So all those files which use PHP, in the file name there would be at the end the extension .php. For JSP the extension would be JSP. We can embed our ASP, JSP or PHP code within the HTML tag, within the HTML document, and then the processing of all these different statements, say written in ASP, JSP, etc., all that processing to that extent takes place on the server side. And the HTML part is all processed on the client side. For instance, if you are using an ASP file, the server would look at the extension .asp, and then it would try to find out that what are the ASP related instructions within that code. It would process those ASP instructions on the server side and would supply the result of that ASP code to the client side. The HTML related part within that code would be processed by the client itself. Then ODBC, JDBC, these are the two terms. They refer to the drivers or the protocols which are available on the server side and they run on the server side. They basically provide the connectivity with the databases. So ODBC stands for Open Database Connectivity. JDBC stands for Java-based database connectivity. Wherever you are using Java programming, then you need to have JDBC to establish connection with the database. Here I would like to point out some major differences between CGI scripts, servlets, ASPs, JSPs. You may know that whenever we write a code, that code has to be translated into an executable form. There are two ways of this translation. One is that that code is compiled using a software called compiler, and then we can say that the translation of that code through compilation has taken place. You may be familiar with the C, C++ compilers which do the job. Then the second mode of translation of the code is through interpretation. So there is no compilation, no conversion into machine code, but rather line by line the code is interpreted. So there is a special software which interprets the instructions available in that code, and then on the runtime these instructions, they are interpreted and we say that the code has been translated. So the example of an interpreter is a browser. You know that browser can interpret the HTML tags. The compiled code is typically faster than the interpreted code in execution. The technologies like ASP, PHP, Cold Fusion, they are interpreted languages, except for the exception of ASP.NET, which is a new version of ASP, which is a compiled language. Otherwise, these technologies, they are translated through interpretation on the server side. In case of JSP, Java Server Pages, it's a compiled language, and there is a software called JSP Engine which compiles the JSP code. And once this compilation has taken place, the result resides within the server memory. In fact, in other words, we can say that a JSP code, once compiled, is converted into a Java servlet. Right? The servlets have this property that they are very fast applications. They, in fact, are always in a run or an active form. They are available within the server memory. They don't take any extra execution time. And whenever a subsequent call to that web page is made, then the response, because of the servlets, is very quick, very fast. That probably is the main difference between JSP and servlet, that once the JSP code is compiled into a servlet, then the subsequent access to that particular code, that web page, because of being converted into servlet becomes very quick. Let's then talk about the CGI scripts. The CGI scripts mainly include C, C++, Perl programs. In case of Perl, it's an interpretive language. The code is interpreted. In case of C or C++, it's a compiled language, so therefore the code is compiled, it is converted into the machine language. The CGI scripts, they are no longer a very popular application because they are relatively slow. The main reason for that is that each time a CGI request is made, it initiates a new process. And it is heavy. Each process is, we can say, is heavy or taxing for the resources of the system. Therefore, the CGI scripts, they are relatively slow. And today, the servlets, the Java applications, they are attaining more popularity. They are replacing CGI scripts. At this point, it may not be out of place to have relatively more detailed knowledge of active server pages. So we can have some 2-3 examples to let us know how ASP works. Active server pages, which is a product of Microsoft, has been quite a popular tool. Now there is a new version, ASP.NET, which is in vogue. It best runs on an IaaS, that is Internet Information Server. The IaaS, Internet Information Server, it comes without any charge, free of cost, with Windows NT as well as Windows 2000. There is an ASP engine, that is a software which translates or which interprets the ASP code into an executable form. ASP has also certain predefined objects. We call them intrinsic objects. Mainly they are of 7 types. You can see them on the slide. First, response object, then request object, then server object, application object, session object, object context object, and then ASP error object. Out of these 7, the 2 objects, request object and response object, they are quite useful and they are more important. Let's have some discussion on that. With the help of response object, certain information can be sent and displayed by the server side on the client side. And with the help of the request object, certain information, some data, can be retrieved by the server side from the client side. We can look at a few examples to understand how these request and response objects, they function. So in the slide you can see there is a simple ASP script. ASP uses the scripting language VBScript. It can use other scripting languages, but the VBScript is more popular, and the syntax is that I enclose my ASP instructions within the angular bracket and percentage sign. So here at the top you see the angular bracket, then the percentage sign, then language equal VBScript, and then I again write the percentage sign and the closing angular bracket. This pair of angular brackets and percentage sign is called delimiters. So within these delimiters, we write our code in VBScript. Then in the subsequent line, you can see the angular bracket, percentage sign, and then I have written the words option explicit. Within the delimiters, the words are option explicit. We use option explicit in order to eliminate the chance of any error in our code. So I can give you an example. If I define a variable in uppercase, but subsequent in the code, I use the same variable in lowercase, that would in fact be an error. But if I do not use option explicit, then that new variable defined in lowercase would be treated as valid. In order to avoid and in order to catch my error, I can use this option explicit, and then if I use this, it would be possible that an error message would be generated telling me that you have defined a different variable. The variable in lowercase is a different variable, and if I know my error, then I can remove it. As a good coder, it's better that we use this option explicit. Then in order to declare variables in ASP, most variables I can declare with the help of the keyword dim. So within the delimiters, as you can see, I declare the variable last name, dim last name, then dim first name, then dim my age. Here I am declaring three variables, last name, first name, and my age. And then I give values to these variables. Last name equal Ali, first name equal Imran, and my age equal 30. And then I close the delimiter sign. Then HTML, I start head. I give a title, it's easy, title closed, head closed. Then within the body, I write my name is, you can see the delimiter. Then with the equal sign, I write the words first name, my variable first name, and that in fact would write the value of the variable first name for me. So it would be written my name is Imran. Then in the subsequent delimiter, I use the variable last name. You can see equal last name. That would print the last name value for me. Then and my age is, here I am using the response object and I use the write function of the response. I write response.write and then I type the variable name my age. Accordingly, the result that would be generated would be, there would be a title, and then within the body the sentence would run my name is Imran Ali and my age is 30. So you can see there are two different ways of writing the information. One is that with the equal sign, I write the variable name and then it would bring the value of that variable. It would write the value of that variable. And the second is that I use response.write and after that I give the variable name. Accordingly, the value of that variable, here the value is 30 for the variable my age, that value then would be written. Similarly, I can also use the request object of ASP and I can use the function request.form in order to retrieve some data, some information from the form, the information which is printed by the user in the text boxes. So you can see in the example, there is a form for which I have written the code. It consists of just two text boxes, form, name, rect form, action equal regcheck.asp, method post, and then I create my first text box, name, input type, text, name, username, maxlength 25, and then I create my second text box, login, input type, text, name, user login, max length 15, and then after creating these two text boxes, then I create the submit button, input type submit, name go, value register, and then a reset button, and then I close the form tag. So there will be two text boxes created, one the name text box, the second login, and then there would be two buttons, one a submit type button having the label register, and second the reset button. When after entering the values name and login name, the user would click on this button register, the information would be passed on to the file regcheck.asp, which is an ASP code. We shall do the coding for this ASP file in this fashion. You can see percentage language VB script. You can see within the delimiters I write language equal VB script, then option explicit, then I declare the two variables with dim login name, and then login name equal request dot form, and within the parenthesis and within the double quotation mark I write the word user login. That would mean that the value inserted by the user in the text box called user login, that value should be read and it should be assigned as a value to the variable login name. Next, name equal request dot form username. That particular syntax in ASP would mean that the value typed in the text box username, that should be assigned as a value to this variable name. Then the HTML tag, head tag, body tag, and then I write my name is, within the delimiters I write the response.write name, and I am going to use response.write login name as my login. So there would be one line when this code would be processed that would be shown, which would run as my name is whatever value, the name value the user has printed, that would appear after the word is, and I am going to use what the login name he had inserted in the text box, login name, that name would appear after the word use, and then as my login these words would come. VB scripting has a lot of flexibility, so we can use if statements, for statements, we can add functions, etc. ASP.NET has added this level of flexibility further. VB scripting has a lot of flexibility, so therefore we can add if statements, for statements, and we can add some functions also. There is no problem in this regard. In the example I'm going to show you, I'm using a for loop in this particular example, and let's see what is the syntax for that. Within the delimiters language VB script, then option explicit, then the HTML tag, body tag, and then the words test1, and then within the delimiters I define a variable called myString. So you can see dim myString, its value is e-commerce. And then comes an if statement within the delimiters. If time is greater than or equal to 12 a.m. and time less than equal 12 p.m., then in the heading, H3 level heading, the word should come good morning Pakistan, else hello everyone. And then after a paragraph tag, I use another variable j within the delimiters. Dim j, I declare this variable, and then for j equal 1, 2, 3, this is the syntax of using a for loop in ASPs. For j equal 1, 2, 3, there are two statements. Response dot write my string, response dot write paragraph, and then there is the keyword next. Here it means that after the message, depending upon the if statement, then a for loop should be executed, and such that the initial value of j should be 1, and then through response.write the value of the variable myString should be written for the first time, and then you would see that the words e-commerce would be typed. Then because of the paragraph tag there would be line break, line space, then due to the keyword next the value of j would be incremented, j would become 2, and then again the two statements of the for loop would be executed, and then therefore the response.write myString, it would generate second time the words e-commerce, then there would again be a paragraph tag, so line break, line space, and then again the next would further increment the value of j would now become 3, and since 3 equals 3, the third time this loop would continue, response dot write my string. Therefore, the words e-commerce would be written thrice, the third time. Then there again would be a paragraph tag, line break, line space. And since I have in the for loop j equal 1 to 3, therefore this loop would only run for 3 times, and 3 times the word e-commerce would be written. And then the heading closed, end if closed, body closed, HTML closed, and the result would somewhat look like this. You can see the word test1, then in the heading form, hello everyone, then e-commerce. This is the value of the variable myString. Because of the for loop running 3 times, these words e-commerce would be printed thrice, as you can see. So in the beginning of lecture, I mentioned that we use our backend mainly for 2 purposes. One is that we want to do queries to the databases, and for that purpose we need to have backend. Secondly, in order to maintain state, again we need to have certain scripts, certain programs that would do the job for us. The concept of statelessness of HTTP should be clear to you by now. I told you in some earlier lecture that HTTP is stateless, so that is a property of HTTP. Different clicks or different steps that we take on the internet, they are not interrelated, they are not linked with each other as such because of statelessness of HTTP. But when we are doing e-commerce, when we go to an e-commerce site, we want that this linkage should be there. We want all different clicks, different steps that we take on that e-commerce shop to be interrelated with each other. For that, we need to have certain scripts, certain code, certain programs that would do the thing for us. For example, you may have noticed that if we visit an e-commerce site, normally we are required to undertake 3 different steps. First of all, normally we are asked to give our registration information. There is a web form on which there would be some text boxes, and with the help of submit button, we would be required to supply that information to the server side. Then once we give this registration information, then there is another page, another form that is opened for us, which has got on it the add to cart button. So there would be certain items listed on that page, and at the bottom there would be add to cart button. That is a second step. When we click at the add to cart button after making the selections, that in fact is our second step. Then there comes another form. After we add to cart, there is another page which is open for us, which has got on it a button confirm order, and when we press this button confirm order, then at that point our transaction, e-commerce transaction, is concluded. So you can notice these are 3 different steps: register, add to cart, confirm order. Now, in order to conclude our transaction, it is imperative that these 3 different steps, these 3 different clicks, they have a connection between themselves. So precisely for that purpose, we can develop our backend, and that would do the job for us. Inshallah, in our subsequent lecture, we shall talk about that as to what are the various options, what are the various programming tricks that we can play on the backend in order to create this link, in order to maintain the state. For the time being, I just give you a brief recap what we have done today. We basically have seen what type of data is processed on the server side. So I told you that there are the server side scripts, ASP, JSP, PHP. There are servlets, which are special Java programs, and then there are CGI scripts. All this type of data, they are processed on the server side, and then they can give us, they can provide us some dynamic results. They can make queries to the databases. They can pick up the data from the databases. They can insert the data into the databases. We have been able to have a broader concept about it with the help of the examples. So for the time being, let's sign off. We'll meet again in our subsequent lecture to discuss how we can maintain the state. Till then, Allah Hafiz.